A judge just ruled that your stay-at-home order is, in Darren Bailey's lawsuit, is no longer able to stand. We're still getting the details of what that order means, but would you like to react to that?
I would. I have affirmed many times over that Republicans and Democrats alike, public servants from all corners of Illinois, have come together since the earliest days of this public health crisis to make incredibly difficult choices. Understanding that, painful as our actions might be, the question boils down to life and death. COVID-19 is responsible for denying the people of Illinois the precious moments of togetherness and steadiness of routine that have been put on pause in response to this global pandemic. The stay-at-home order has prevented tens of thousands of illnesses and thousands of deaths. History will remember those who put politics aside to come together to keep people safe. It will also remember those who so blindly devoted to ideology and the pursuit of personal celebrity that they made an enemy of science and of reason. Representative Darren Bailey's decision to take to the courts to try and dismantle public health directives designed to keep people safe is an insult to all Illinoisans who have been lost during this COVID-19 crisis. And it's a danger to millions of people who may get ill because of his recklessness. At best, no one is better off because of this ruling, and at worst, people's health and safety will suffer tremendously. In Illinois and nationally, we are operating on decades of precedent in terms of how disaster proclamations work. From floods to tornadoes and now a global pandemic, disasters don't necessarily evaporate on a 30-day time frame. The legislature took that into account when they wrote this law. In collaboration with the Attorney General's office, my team and I will fight this legal battle to the furthest extent possible to ensure the public health and common sense, and that those prevail. In the interim, we will be issuing new public health directives so that we can continue to respond to this public health crisis. At this time, I strongly encourage all municipal level leaders, as well as the people of Illinois who are our strongest weapon against this virus, to follow the advice of our scientists here in Illinois and across the nation, of IDPH and the CDC, and continue to follow the guidelines of our stay-at-home order. This ruling has put the people of Illinois at risk. I sincerely hope that this matter will be brought to a swift resolution so that we can go back to placing our undivided attention on the work of keeping people safe.
And then we'll just do a few more questions here. Jake Griffin from the Daily Herald. Coronavirus deaths linked to nursing homes more than doubled. Cases also soared to 4,300. Is the surge partly a function of more testing in these facilities in the past week? What can be done to protect workers and residents in these facilities?
We certainly are doing much more testing across the state, and especially in nursing home facilities. That is true. As you know, when there's an outbreak, we have a strike team that often takes hold, that we are advising the local assisted living or nursing home on how to manage these crises. And of course, the county public health officials are very much engaged on the local level to make sure that there's PPE to protect the people in the facility, including the staff, as well as all the residents. And so we'll continue to operate on an urgent basis with regard to our nursing homes, because those congregate facilities, as we've been saying now for weeks, are the most at risk of any type of setting that people can be in. Doc, do you have anything to add?
Mm-hmm. Governor, I didn't realize that order, what had happened. I apologize for breaking into that. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's going to cause a problem. If you now...
Hey, Marianne, can you wait 1 second so we can get you on?
Yeah, I'm going to get you a microphone.
If you... Yeah, I wasn't ready for that, sorry.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And others are asking as well. So if the judge is saying, Darren Bailey's right, you might not have this authority, what is every city, every county is going to go ahead and say, guess what, we're opening.
That is the danger that Darren Bailey has put this state in. You've just stated it perfectly succinctly. People are in danger as a result of this ruling, of the judge's ruling, of the suit that was brought by Darren Bailey. We certainly are going to act in a swift fashion to try to have this ruling overturned. Certainly put a stay in place. I mean, it's frankly, it's insulting, it's dangerous, and people's safety and health has now been put at risk. There may be people who contract coronavirus as a result of what Darren Bailey has done now.
How quickly can you act? Because I would think people are going to try to supersede you very quickly as
The
well.
Attorney General handles these kinds of lawsuits. Their people are on site, and their people are handling the appeals that will take place.